What's up, Lost Boys? Here we are, Fantasy Festivus, week 16. You know what week that is? Playoff week. We finally made it, guys. But before we get into playoffs, let's go over week 15 real quick. So going into week 15, we had some pretty big matchups. Josh had already clinched. Ryan had basically already clinched, which left Matt, Cass, and Denny fighting for 2 playoff spots. Now, the way it worked last week is if Denny lost, he's out. So Denny had to win. Roman, Cass, they had him in points, so they had some leverage. But Roman was easy. If Roman won, he was in. And Cass, pretty much because he was ahead on Denny, if he won, he was in. So that's our situation. Last week, we'll start with Matt. He was playing Josh. Battle of top teams, right? Josh was first place. He already had clinched. This was a crazy game. 196 points from Matt, 186 points from Josh, the two highest scoring teams in the league last week by a large margin. Matt comes through in the clutch, takes down Josh, gets the dub that he needed, ends up seeing after the results that he didn't necessarily need the win, but at the time, it was big. Then we go to Denny. Denny was playing Jace. Jace's team is god awful. He put up 96 points. Denny beat him by 50, rolled to victory. So then it was all on Cass after that. Cal decided to show up. His team decided to show up for Denny. 129 points. It's quite a lot for Cal's team, just to say. Cass's team, though, lays an egg. 100 points. 100 points. He only needed to score 130, and he'd be in the playoffs. And he couldn't do it. He ends the season on a 5-game losing streak. 5 games in a row. Drops him to 9-6, and he falls out of the playoffs, which is crazy to think. Actually falls to 8-7. 8-7. So Cass looked like it clinched, has a collapse. I feel for you, Cass. It's got to be brutal. I don't even know if you're going to watch this video because how pissed you are, but brutal ending to the season. Denny squeaks in with Cass's loss. Denny ends the season on a huge win streak. He's riding momentum right now. Real quick before you get the playoffs, let's go over the other games from last week. Justin versus Tim. Justin beats the crap out of him. We knew that was going to happen. Justin ends on a high note, ends the season, so good for Justin. Stays with the 8-7, tied with Cass. Cass beats him in points, so Justin ends up at 6th place. Titty Biscuits versus Llama. Llama was already clinched. Still put the beat down on Pat, beat him by about 20. Llama gets a dub. So those are all our games from last week. Amazing regular season, guys. Hope you guys at least set your lineups for the consolation bracket because it's always fun. But let's go into the playoffs matchups. Here we are, guys. After Denny squeaks in, ends on a long win streak, Cass falls out. Denny snags that 4th spot. And who does he play this week? Our first place team, Josh. Josh had 3 losses, 4 losses all year. Matt beating him last week. But before this, Denny had beaten him twice. These guys have already seen each other twice this season. Denny beat him both times. This is the 3rd time. We'll see what's going to happen. Matchup is interesting. Josh is rolling. I mean, even last week after he lost, he scored 186 points. Would have beaten everyone but Matt. Ended with the most points in the league. One of the big reasons of that is he had the #1 player in fantasy. His name, Jalen Hurts. Huge news comes out on Monday. Jalen Hurts, sprained shoulder. No one knew about it. So he's looking like he's out. Josh loses the #1 player in fantasy right before the playoffs. Can't make this stuff up. Huge blow to him. Luckily, he was able to pick up Gardner Minshew on the waivers, but there's no replacing Jalen Hurts. The guy gets rushing yards, the guy gets passing yards, he gets rushing TDs. And on top of that, they're playing Dallas D. Speaking of defenses, fantasy's all about matchups right now. Yes, Josh was first place. Yes, Josh had the most points. But Denny, #1, beat him twice. #2, about the matchups, when you look at Denny's guys and you look at Josh's guys' matchups, Denny's the clear-cut better matchups this week. I mean, Rodgers, this Miami Green Bay game is huge for Denny. That's going to decide whether he moves on in the playoffs or not. He has Aaron Rodgers, he has Aaron Jones, he has Christian Watson, he has Tyreek Hill, and luckily for Denny, it's in Miami. You see all these weather notices, how it's cold around the NFL, all these games that are going to have negative 5 degrees, 5 degrees snow, all this different stuff. Nope, not Denny's guys. They're going to be in Miami scoring 30 to 35 each team, and that's huge for Denny. Tyreek's going to have 25. Rodgers is going to have 25. Jones is going to have 20. I mean, the Dolphins' D is awful. We've seen it week after week. So, and the Packers' offense is going to score points, even though they usually don't. Rodgers and QBs has been Denny's only weak spot, and I think this week they come through for him. Looking at the other matchup, Daniel Jones playing Minnesota. We saw what Detroit did, or Colts did to Minnesota's off defense last week. So what's Daniel Jones going to do? Probably have a huge game. You know, you have Austin Eckler against that Colts D, who allowed 1 billion points to the the Vikings to come back last week. So Eckler's going to have a monster game. Jones is going to come back. I mean, Gabe Davis is playing the Bears. Bears defense is one of the worst in the league. He gets Ramondre back. So he puts Ramondre in instead of Jerick McKinnon, who's led him to the playoffs, which is interesting. I think that's the only question Denny has right now with this matchup is, does he play McKinnon or Stevenson? He putting in Stevenson. He's playing the Bengals. Bengals run D isn't the best. So Denny's matchups are rock star. On the flip side, Josh's are literally the opposite. I mean, Minshew, I mentioned, and Goddard going against Dallas's D is one of the best. Not to mention Josh has Dallas's D, so he's basically fighting against himself, which is always brutal to have. Everyone knows that. Then you have Jamar Chase going against New England. Well, we know Bill Belichick loves to shut down the number one weapon. It's Brian Robinson going up against San Fran D. Kirk Cousins going up against that Giants D, same as Justin Jefferson. So it's looking pretty rough for Josh. Matchup to matchup. If Jalen Hurts was healthy, this game would be a little bit different. But with Jalen Hurts more than likely going to miss the game and the matchups favoring Denny, I have Denny winning this game. The upset, 4-1. He beats Josh for the third time this year, and he moves on to the Super Bowl. I just think it's on a roll right now. His running backs are really strong, and his quarterbacks who have been weak have great matchups this week. And he is going to topple over Josh, which is crazy. And another big thing is, keep in mind, most of the games are on Saturday. Denny's big game, that Green Bay Miami game, is on Christmas Day. So no matter what happens on Saturday, Denny's going to have to be down by like 120 points for people to count him out. So I think Denny takes down Josh this week and goes on to his first ever Super Bowl. Our next playoff matchup is the big one. I've been saying all year, these two guys are clear-cut, two of the best teams in the league. Ryan with Saquon, McCaffrey, he has a lot of great guys. Burrow's come on as a stud the last 7 weeks of the season. Goff has been an awesome quarterback. So he has 2 rock star quarterbacks. He has 2 rock star running backs. He's starting J.K. Dobbins this week, which he looked really good last week. We'll see what happens there. He had Hopkins the entire time on the IR, brought him back. He's been great since he came back. If Amon-Ra St. Brown gets going, Ryan's team is awesome. On the flip side, you have Ramon, who was almost the number 1 scoring team in the league. His quarterbacks are probably the 2 best in the league right now, with Josh Allen, Justin Fields. Those guys run like crazy. They score a ton of points. And who do they play this week? Oh yeah, they play each other this week in Chicago. It's going to be freezing. A lot of running for quarterbacks. I got a feeling both of these guys are running a lot this week. It's going to be a good game for Matt. His wide receivers are great. Keenan Allen came back. He's finally healthy. He's doing okay. Jalen Waddle has big games. He had a big game last week. His first big game in about 6 weeks. So we'll see if Waddle can get it going. I mentioned that Miami-Green Bay game already. I think Waddle has a big game because it's in Miami, going to be good weather. And Chris Godwin in Arizona, another good weather game. Godwin came out last week. Bucks have to win. Remember, they have to win because they haven't clinched the division yet. So I think Godwin has a big game. Horse turd hair is the key here. Horse turd hair, destroys the Houston Texans. He always has like 200 yards and at least a couple touchdowns. And we'll see about Tony Pollard. He's a iffy guy. And then David Montgomery had a big week last week, but they activated Khalil Herbert this week. So I don't know if he's going to get the bulk of the touches like he has been. Either way, this matchup is crazy close. You got two amazing teams. And after looking at the matchups, after looking at everything, I think that Ryan takes the win. Slim, but takes it from Matt. I think this is a crazy high scoring game. I'm talking 180 to 190. Just both teams going off. I think Matt's quarterbacks go off. I think Ryan's quarterbacks go off. And then I think Horse Turd Hair gets 25 to 30 points, which is a huge boost to Matt. But I think Saquon and McCaffrey, especially Saquon against Minnesota's defense, I think Saquon has a huge game, equals Horse Turd Hair. And I think St. Brown and Hopkins edge out Keenan Allen and Waddle. I think Ryan slimly takes down Matt this week, and I think it's Ryan versus Denny in the Super Bowl, which would be a great matchup. Denny's never been in the Super Bowl. He's never won one. Ryan only has one. He's always good every single year. So I think that would be an awesome Super Bowl to have. So those are my predictions, guys. We'll see what happens. We have games that start on Thursday. Our Thursday night games, Jacksonville versus the Jets. We do have guys going. That's a really interesting game for both of these. Jacksonville, Matt has Kirk Cousins. Ryan has Garrett Wilson. So we'll see what happens in that one. But playoffs start officially tomorrow night. But the big day is Saturday, Christmas Eve. Majority of the games are that day. Hopefully everyone stays healthy. If someone gets hurt in the first quarter to kind of tarnish the quality of the games. We just want good, healthy games, but I think they're going to be awesome matchups. Like I said, I think Josh loses to Denny, Slim, and I think Matt loses to Ryan, Slim. But they're going to be great matchups, guys. So those are my predictions. Week 16, great season so far, guys. Let's hope we get really, really fun playoffs. And I love you guys. Have a great Christmas. Go Chiefs. Go Bears. Love you.